So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, and a very warm to this session. Thank you so much for joining us, taking your precious time and being with us. So before we begin the session, just I would like you to take a good posture, relax, and we begin with a short prayer. You can close your eyes if you feel free. We thank the triune God, our Father and Mother, for bringing us Mary Ward women to this platform where we are going to learn, listen, share about our work as Mary Ward women at the United Nations. As we, all of us, are engaged in various activities, we ask the Lord to bless each one of us so that together we can make our society, our world, a better place for everyone to live. May the Lord bless all of us. May Mother Mary Ward and St. Ignatius intercede for us. We make this prayer for your love's sake. Amen.
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 Yes, Janet, you could just share the housekeeping.
Yes, just a little reminder really in relation to how we can organize this time together. So I just would like to remind you, if you could please mute your microphones until the end of the presentations. This will just reduce the background noises. Yeah, so that we can hear the presentation. So your mute is on your lower left hand, and it's like the microphone. At the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, we'd ask you to please raise your hand and we will call you to speak. Also, at the end of this is quite we just wanted to make sure that you are getting the most from this training. So at the end of the second presentation, which is after we speak about the roles of the UN rep, we will ask you if you would like to continue with the training for the social media, because it might be by that time we have an overload, but we'll just do a check at that point. It will be also between the first, before we start the second presentation, we'd also ask you to do a little jig or a little walk around, just so you can still be awake. So Cynthia, thank you very much.
Okay, so once again, welcome to all of you. So you see the screen. Can you all see the screen? Yes. Okay, so we as IBVM NGO, Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, we have the accreditation to the Economic and Social Council at the United Nations. So on the left side, you will see IBVM logo, which is official logo, which we use for the UN work. And on the right side, you will see the logo, IBVM CJ Global Concerns. Of course, we created this logo as we, IBVM CJ, together working at the United Nations. So with our network, when we send any information, we use this. It is not official logo, unofficial, but we use it for our office and the network. And we are, I'm sure all of you have seen this, what is on the screen on our website, working for a more humane, just and sustainable world. So as you all know, United Nations headquarters is in New York. This is the building you will see. So here you will see the UN staff, the Secretariat building. This is the Secretariat building where the UN staff, all the officers, Secretariat officers are there. And on your outside, okay, just below this tall building, adjacent to that, you will see this area. We have all the conference rooms, including the General Assembly Hall, the COSOC, all those conference rooms, meeting rooms are here, and this is where we have, as NGO, we have access to the meetings, and we have side events, all other events takes place here. And on right side, the members, outside the UN building, the missions, the member states, the countries' offices are there. It is called missions, not embassy, because they are not representing the country. I mean, when we say United Nations, the countries, so not any particular embassy. It is called the missions of each country. And then we have left side, you have the civil society. You see that is also, of course, outside the UN building. We have our offices. Most of us work from the office in New York, and there are also some NGOs who do not have the office in New York, but they work from different countries. So originally we were up to DPI, that is in 2002, which was called Department of Public Information. Now they have changed the name. It is called the Department of Global Communications. And of course, in 2015, we got the consultative status with the Economic and Social Council. And we have Charter of the United Nations, and Article 71 gives us the right to have the consultative status with the ECOSOC and to have a voice at the UN. So what does it mean to be accredited? Accredited to the Economic and Social Council. This means we can participate in UN proceedings, in the UN negotiations, conferences, commissions, briefings that take place at the United Nations with the member states and other UN agencies. We have access and we have a voice there. We can make oral and written statements. That is where we ask our network to give information, feedback, so that we can make our oral statement, written statement based on the real facts from the ground. We also sponsor side events during different commissions and conferences. We have opportunity to bring the good practices, bring information from the ground, and through different workshops and side events, we organize, and of course, we also join with the other NGOs, and we co-sponsor. Sometimes we ourselves sponsor and do the events. When we meet with the diplomats from the different countries, when we do the advocacy, because our main work at the United Nations is advocacy and lobbying. So when we do the advocacy, we do the mission visits and meet the diplomats and other country representatives. Then of course, making formal and informal recommendations on new UN declarations and resolutions as they are being negotiated. For example, we had last year, we had the Global Compact on Migration. When the negotiations were going on, we as civil society organization came together and made recommendations, and we were part of that negotiation. Then submitting reports and comments to national review process, like during the high-level political forum and other events that takes place at the United Nations, and also in Geneva Human Rights Council. So what is the role of the NGOs raise issues that are of concern to us at local and national level. Feedback from members working on the ground is essential for this. So when we bring issues of our concern to the United Nations, of course, we are not just working as IBVM NGO, we join together with all other NGOs and we have various concerns. When we bring the concerns to the United Nations, we need real facts, evidence to bring to the United Nations. So we need the information from the network. That's where when we send you surveys and other information to get feedback from our network, from the ground. Then shape decisions through input to UN process. Hold our national governments and the UN accountable. With partners on the ground, we observe, critique, report, and offer alternatives. This all we do during various commissions and conferences and high-level political forums that take place at the United Nations. Then we have so many at the United Nations as religious NGOs. There are over 200 religious NGOs representing, and of course the Catholic women are more than men religious at present at the UN in person. Every month we have a meeting, we have a supporting group, religious at the UN run. Every month we meet, and of course that is not a very structured group, but there is a supporting group. It is very important that we represent as faith-based organization, as religious NGO at the United Nations, because we bring credibility by providing insights from members working in even before the United Nations came into existence. The religious were working on the ground with the poor, the marginalized, and we have a very rich heritage. We have our constitutions, we have our charism. So we bring credibility by providing real information from the ground, bringing the voice of the people who are excluded. So we have a very inclusive approach. Therefore, we bring that credibility to the United Nations. And many of the countries really, they take our suggestions and they look forward to our participation. And then we bring impartiality, because we are not representing just one country. I am from India, but I am not representing my country, India, but I am representing the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary and CJ at the United Nations. So, and we are in 42 countries, if I am not mistaken. So we are bringing that impartial identity to the United Nations. We are bringing the global issue. We are, as global citizens, we are representing ourselves at the United Nations. And of course, we bring moral voice as faith-based groups known for a life of dedication to human dignity of all and care of the natural environment. As I mentioned, we are there for so many years in this work of advocacy and charity work. So we have, as NGO, we have a structure. We have our NGO office at in New York, and of course now Janet and me, we are full-time, we are engaged in the work. And for short terms, we have youth representatives. Previously we used to have many youth representatives. Of course now, because of we are away from there and nobody can be there, but we are still getting some application to join us as interns. And once we get back to New York, we will welcome the interns, and they do really wonderful work, especially with representing our NGO at the United Nations as youth representative. And then we have UN NGO Advisory Committee. We have Mary Aileen with us, who is the chair of the advisory committee, and Pat, who was previous chair. And so we have both IBVM, CJ together advisory committee. And at province level, we have our province representatives for IBVM and CJ from different provinces and regions. Of course, for CJ now, the JPIC coordinators and province and region representatives are the same. Then also we have the other networks like Network on Human Trafficking, which all of you know, and then we have Latin American and Caribbean Network, Spanish-speaking members. So now we come to the role and responsibilities of IBVM Ctnz representatives. Promote and raise awareness of the IBVM CJ network about United Nations and key issues on its agenda, especially those relating to women and girls. So our main focus is on women and girls. Of course, all the issues are affecting the women and girls. So therefore, we are concerned about all the issues affecting women, but main focus on women and girls. Then promote and raise awareness of the IBVM CJ network about human rights and sustainable development goals. So we, the framework of our work, we are, the sustainable development goals, I am sure all of you know, and we are working within that framework of sustainable development goals and human rights. Advocate at a global level for the concerns and issues of the communities where IBVM CJs are present. So that's where when we attend meetings, we attend as many as possible, because our members are working on different issues: migration, refugees, social development, human trafficking. So our concerns are many, and issues of course are very large. In collaboration with the IBVM CJ network, provide the UN with information analysis on issues as required based on their experience on the ground. That's again where we send out survey to get information from our network from the ground, so that we can feed into the UN process. Assist in monitoring and implementing UN conventions, declarations, and international agreements in member countries in collaboration with the IBVM CJ network. Provide opportunities for IBVM CJ network to attend UN commissions and forums, international conferences, by informing and preparing them for applicable events. For example, we had a gathering for immersion program at the UN for a few months, and once she got the experience, the taste of the UN work, she has gone back and doing a good job, I must say, really doing well. So congratulations. So when we get also we invite members to attend different, of course last year for the high-level political forum, our members were supposed to come to the UN, but it was, because the pandemic, everything, so we couldn't. So we invite our members to attend different forums and conferences at the UN. Then provide opportunities for immersion and internship with IBVM UN NGO in New York. So as an NGO in consultative status at ECOSOC, we contribute to the UN process commissions, as already I mentioned. As NGO office, we engage directly with the United Nations, and we have specific youth engagement. As you know, we had many youth representatives actively involved in youth commissions and forums and conferences, making statements, bringing the voice of the youth from different world, different countries. And then we have a Mary Ward youth group engaged in our process. We participate in UN forums, as I mentioned already, not only in New York, but we also participate in Geneva, the Human Rights Council, and in Vienna. We have our members. Previous year, we had gone to Geneva to attend the Human Rights regular session, and there was a social forum on education. So education and human rights, we had our members from Europe attending. Then, of course, as I mentioned already, written and oral statements, either individual or in collaboration with other NGOs. As individual NGO, And also with other NGOs as group, we make oral and written statements during the commissions. Input into process. For example, preparing for documents for forums and commissions. Now in 2021 February, we have a commission on social development, which is going to take place, of course, virtually. But already we began the preparation for it a few months back, getting ready, drafting our advocacy letters, resolutions, and trying to advocate with all the missions, all the countries. So for that information from the ground, because sitting in New York, we won't be able to get much information. But with your help, our network, we are able to bring the voice of the people to the United Nations. Then side events, we ourselves prepare or we join other NGOs to have side events during commissions and conferences. Then we join other working groups and major groups at the United Nations. So as I mentioned, a framework for our work is, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, which we all know. Then we work in collaboration with, we have NGO committees. No NGO can work alone at the United Nations. So we have different committees, NGO committee on social development, on human trafficking, then migration, financing for development. So we work with the different committees and working groups. There are working groups on girls, working groups to end homelessness. So on different groups, we join these groups and major groups, the religious at the UN, and there is a Justice Coalition for Religious, again, the faith-based organizations, religious coming together, all working together to make this world a better world. So, as I mentioned, it is at the United Nations, it is a collaborative work, because we are all concerned about all the issues. So we bring the issues together and we advocate on behalf of our members, our people on the ground. So specific engagement of youth representatives in UN, as I already mentioned, taking lead in organizing. Previously, we had many youth at the in our office, as I mentioned. The last one was Francesca. So all of them really took lead to organize events, not only in New York, but to have the conversation going on with our members from different parts of the world, especially with the youth, and online organizing webinars, advocating with the member states. Then we also have this major group on children and youth. So our youth members, representatives, they were very much engaged in this group, children and youth major group, and they have regional and national level, they have their network. As I mentioned earlier, our members attend regional meetings. Last year, before the high-level political forum in New York, regional-wise they organize meetings. So our members previously from Latin American group, they had attended regional meetings, and then Pat, Faith, and one more youth, they had attended the regional meeting in Zimbabwe on sustainable development goals. Then there was a regional meeting in Busan, South Korea on global citizenship and education conference. 3 of our senior sisters from South Korea attended. Then, as I mentioned, in Geneva, we had attended meeting, conference, social forum and human rights. Then there was, every year there is a civil society conference organized by the Department of Global Communication. So last year it was in Salt Lake City. Many of us attended from our network. Also, there was one associate joined us from Canada. So it is a two-way communication. NGO office shares the UN updates. As you know, there was we send out UN updates. Of course, we get the information from you all, and then also from the United Nations, whatever we are doing, we send the information to all. Then there used to be towards global citizenship where our members contribute, and then all other documents, the important documents, information we send out. Also on international important international days, we post on our social media. So please do visit our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website. All information you will find there. Then we also hold webinars. We share the videos. We had organized many webinars, as you all know. Many of you are already attended, so I don't have to say. So we have our website. We are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Please do visit, like. So again, NGO Office and Mary Ward World Network, we are all here to work together. We alone cannot work at the UN. We need every one of you. So when we say the network, it's you to engage ourselves with the UN process. This, you know, many of you had attended this UN 75 conversation which we had. Thank you so much for joining us, and your feedback already submitted by us to the UN, and soon you will hear about it. And of course, in order to work more effectively, to engage ourselves with the UN process, we need to educate ourselves. We need to update with everything. So we attend meetings, and we attend briefings, and we prepare ourselves so that, you know, with all other documents and information what we get, so that we can be more effectively participating in the UN process. Invitation for reflection and specific issues, study of specific documents we do. Then, as NGO representative, we are accountable to our leadership, to the advisory committee. So we meet 4 times per year, the advisory committee. As NGO, from the NGO office, we report to the advisory committee. It is presented, discussed in the meeting. And also we discuss about the meeting we have with our UN province representatives and the Human Trafficking Network and other networks. So as we work at the United Nations as NGO, it's a privilege, of course, and a lot of opportunity we have. And it is a responsibility. So let us not do alone what we can do better together. Thank you. If you have any questions, most welcome.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We have a few minutes. We have included a question and answer in this program. Or any clarifications?
Cynthia, you said about side events. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What are those side events that you do?
So side events, when we say during the commissions and conference, for example, we have the commission on the social development. So last year, and every year this commission takes place, there is a commission on status of women. So according to each commission, they have a priority theme. Priority theme, last year the commission priority theme was on homelessness, to end homelessness. So we have many members. So, for example, our rainbow homes in Kolkata. So we bring those good practices or what we are doing, and then we organize side events to show that to the member states, to other NGOs, yes, this is what we are doing in order to end homelessness. Or any other advocacy work that we are doing on the ground. So we bring that good practices, the issues to the United Nations. So there are sometimes there are member states coming to our side events, then they know what we are doing, and that is a very good place for advocacy. So that we sometimes we do as individual NGO, or we do it together along with the other NGOs.
Thank you.
Cynthia's presentation was very clear. There's not a lot of clarifications that are required. If at any point in time, though, you remember that you want to ask a question, please just put it on the chat box. I just thought, just if you want to have a stand or do whatever, I was told that it's very good to do this in between presentations with Zoom, just to keep you awake. So I'll just, maybe just 1 minute or 2 minutes to stand up or do a jig, whatever you want to do, or have a cup of coffee or drink. And we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Oh, Cynthia's gone. Cynthia, I just want to say that was a superb presentation. Absolutely
Thank you.
beautiful. Even having been there, it made so much more sense to me now looking at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Deepti, I think you are not muted. We can hear your music.
Before I begin, can I remind you, please, to mute your microphone again? I think everyone is back. Okay, so welcome back. Okay, before we begin, can I just ask you to mute your microphone again, please? And I think everyone is back, so welcome again. This presentation is in relation to the role of the province representative. So this is about your role and how we can work together. So the NGO office, as Cynthia mentioned earlier, it's a ministry of the Institute leadership. So we report directly to Institute leadership. The province UN reps are actually our link to the NGO office, sorry, to the worldwide network. So the province UN reps hold that critical role of linking the office to the network and the network to the office. And so your role as province UN reps is a whole lot of this information: raising awareness, advocacy, communicating, coordinating, cooperation, collaboration, educating. But at the middle of this is the advocacy that is required, that we do at the United Nations. So we advocate for the people who we work with on the ground, and all awareness raising. And we want to educate people so that we can engage with them and empower them so that eventually they will be advocating for themselves. Our communication is a whole lot of information, but also it's also about empowering people again. So we go back to that. So our communication is about education, engagement, and power. So all of this work is actually very connected to each other. In relation to coordination, we want cooperation from our network, but we also, more importantly, want to collaborate with them, with the advocacy work we do at the UN. And you will hear us always talking about this collaboration and advocacy. As Cynthia mentioned earlier, our engagement at the UN is two ways. So we have a direct engagement and we have an indirect engagement. And this is a motto that I heard when I first arrived at the UN, and I really like it. They told us, if we are not at the table, we could be on the menu. So it's really important for us, and especially for the people that we work with, that their voices and their concerns are present at the table. So we are there not for ourselves. We are actually there for the people that we work with. So as province UN reps, we really would encourage you to learn a lot about the issues that are happening in the local situation, in the national situation, because those things happening at the local and the national inevitably affects the global issues. And again, this is a really important thing. The importance of being able to bring the voice of the marginalized people that we work with at the local, at the national, and at the international tables of power. So the United Nations is the only intergovernmental institution that we have at the moment, where the international tables of power is really where it happens at the UN at this moment. So our indirect, for the UN reps, you work with the UN on an indirect level when you respond to the surveys that we request from you and informations that are requested. So the surveys and the requests are from our NGO, from us, the NGO office, because as Cynthia mentioned earlier, we write statements, written statements at the commissions, at the conferences, but also sometimes the UN bodies request us, the civil society, on what is happening on the ground, because as we all know, our national governments will say one thing and they will always make it look so wonderful and great, but the reality on the ground could be very different, and most of the time it probably is. again, with the NGO major groups, committees and major groups, because we need those facts, as Cynthia mentioned, when we put our submissions. So our work at the UN is really more effective if it is informed by your experiences, by the experiences of the people you work with, by the experiences of our sisters on the ground who are in their ministries working with the most marginalized. So your role is to encourage communication from the ministries to the NGO offices, as I mentioned earlier, but also to engage with the United Nations campaigns when it happens. So when we inform you about whatever campaigns is, at some point in time, we had a campaign, for example, when the Paris Agreement was happening or before the Sustainable Development Goals was happening. So at the moment, we have this really decade of action. So the last 10 years of the Sustainable Development Goals, so that is a huge campaign that the UN is doing, beginning at UN at 75. And as Cynthia mentions, the United Nations International Days, which we really use to highlight particular issues that are happening on the ground and really making our governments accountable. So important, most of all, because as Cynthia mentioned, the SDGs is our framework. So it's really important for us to localize. It's really important to us to localize the SDGs, to contact the United Nations offices if we have in our country, or whatever agency is, or whatever UN agency is in your country, find out about what's happening. Find out about how your national government is going about with the SDGs. You know, we really need to make them accountable. And also your local governments. I am very much aware, for example, when I was in Peru, that the national government embedded the Sustainable Development Goals in their plan, in their 10-year plan for their country. And again, encourage their local governments. But we need to be asking these questions so that they know that we are watching out for what they are doing. And we also need, we also need to educate the people that we work with about the SDGs, because they also need to be asking their local governments, you know, what are you doing about this? We've signed on this, or the national government saying, we've signed on this, what are you doing about it? So our direct, so for you UN reps, your direct engagement, as Cynthia mentioned, is when we have all these forums and regional meetings and annual conferences, particularly, for example, in the Commission on Status of Women. You might be able to attend, and that's fantastic, but also there are a lot of work that happens before the actual meeting happens, and that is really the critical point for us, that we are able to provide. For example, I think early this year, a lot of you have done a lot of work reading the reports of your countries on the status of women, on the CEDAW. And so we can actually say to them, well, you have mentioned that this is fantastic work you're doing, but what about, you know, domestic violence, for example? So we can raise all these issues where the national governments are probably not doing a lot of work, or they might be forgetting. One of the things that I could like to share with you is in relation to human trafficking. It was actually at the Commission on the Status of Women that this issue was raised at a general level, and it was used by the women to highlight the issue of human trafficking worldwide in a global sense. So there are all these other places where we could use it. Of course, as Cynthia mentioned, the immersion experience. And hopefully, you know, at some point in time, a number of you would be able to do immersion experience at the NGO office. We really encourage you to attend and to now, especially when hopefully being able to attend these meetings at a virtual is possible going forwards, because I think it's really important. This is the next, this is the other motto that I really love. Do not speak about us without us. speaks to me a lot about our Catholic social teaching of subsidiarity. You know, the people who are most affected by the decisions should be at the table. So, you know, if we are to bring good news to the poor, liberate the oppressed, as I see here, we need to occupy the spaces in places of power, and that is what we're doing at the UN. And also when you're advocating on a national and a local level, that is really what we are doing, because as religious, as IBVMs, we do have the power, and you know, governments really listen to us, so we could occupy that space. If the people, it would be fantastic if when we also provide opportunities for the people we work with who are the most marginalized, if they could be sitting at that space and be able to speak, to provide that opportunity. But if it's not possible, we could occupy that space for them, on behalf of them, so that their insights, their experiences are heard, and really that they are given the voice. One of the hopes that, and I think it's happened before too, is that we tried to invite, for example, last year, one of the rainbow children, you know, to be at this CSOC-D on the homelessness. It was really sad that she wasn't able to get the visa, but that is the situation we have. But it will be really great if we could have articulate people who we could bring to these committees, to these conferences, so that they themselves can say, you know, what they think and what they're experiencing, and make their governments accountable. So we really need to participate and work together to challenge and change these unjust structures. And again, we go back, thinking of the SDGs. It is the framework for our work, but it's also the framework to make this place a better place. You know, if you have a look at all those sustainable development goals, they're all interconnected. And if we could, and find out what is already happening in your own countries, but also become aware of how our ministries are connected to the SDGs, and how our ministries are, through our ministries, we're actually contributing to achieving the SDGs. So here ends my presentation. If you have, sorry, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Sarah.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever everybody is. I have a question. I'm just wondering about the collaboration with the JPIC office. I don't know, it wasn't really mentioned. I'm just wondering, like, where I am, like, I've now been asked to take on like a combination role, JPIC UN. So I'm wondering how these kind of work together, and if there's overlap or anything, or yeah, just how to make it the most effective process, I guess. For sharing information.
Yeah. Of course, there is we have to work closely with JPIC, with the Mary Ward JPIC office, because it is impossible to advocate for anything that is not connected to the Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation office, because even if you look at the SDGs, it's specifically all of that we've just mentioned. So there is a lot of collaboration and a lot of work with it. We are going to meet at some point in time. Actually, we have a meeting to look at how we could work together and how we could make it a bit more clear for the UN reps and the JPIC. But the one thing that I can say is that at the UN, we really look at advocacy. And that is our focus, our advocacy on the issues that are faced by the people on the ground, our you know, all our provinces, the ministries, and all that. Maybe at some point in time we will speak to you about how we could work this together, because as Cynthia said, not only with the IBVMs, but the CJs, they are actually all JPIC contacts as well.
Great.
Adina,
Thank
did you want to say anything, or Pauline?
Yeah.
I think I think our JPIC office started in a very bad time. And this creates confusion because, of course, both our JPIC office and the UN office advocate for human rights at the end of the day. So since we didn't have the chance to somehow meet you all in person and go to the countries and have all this kind of connection, it might seem the work is overlapping. I wouldn't say it's overlapping, because you see, what you are doing in Australia, it's the congregation commitment in Australia. What we do is, at the end of the day, we are promoting the work at different levels, at the church level or at the UN level. But the mission is the same. So we try to animate as much as possible and to offer support as much as possible, in the sense of putting people in contact, for example, from Rome, with what is happening with regard to the, let's say, 7-year plan on Laudato Si. And how can we, at the congregational level, think about a strategy? So I hope this helps, but it's really, we have started in a very interesting time. I think Janet is the same, so thank you.
May I come in?
Yes, Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah. I remember, you know, over the years that I've been involved in this, that I'm sure when we began and I was trying to get the group, the region on board, which wasn't always easy at the beginning, because people felt, well, we're very busy, we're all working in ministry, and this is something extra. And my strategy at that stage was to actually show that all that we were doing in all our ministries were actually JPIC work, were actually UN work. And I think that helped. But what was quite difficult and still is very challenging is the advocacy bit. To know how to get a public voice, to know how to even contact departments, government departments, can be quite challenging. And we've been doing it, and sometimes we've been invited to work to civil society presentations, and that has been good. But just to say that, yes, absolutely, all our ministries are JPIC work and UN work. The advocacy part is probably the most challenging, even still after I've been in it about 5 years. And I'd like to say that Pauline and Adina needn't think that they're causing confusion. I think they are absolutely marvelous. As we say, they hit the ground running and they're really in there, and we're very grateful to what they're doing.
Can I add something to that, Janet? Please?
Yes, Catherine.
I agree totally with everything that Mary Elizabeth has just said, and particularly the last thing about the JPIC. But I just want to share a little anecdote of something I said when I was with Cecilia and Cynthia at the UN. Every week they had group meetings. And I remember saying one day, and don't misunderstand this, I said to them, the English province is not interested in the United Nations. It's too busy doing it. And that was one of the things I learned really well while I was there, that we, just what you're saying, you just said it all, that we are in our own provinces in our way doing the work. But I also get it now, as I said to Cynthia very often, that I can see why it is important for us to report back to the UN and to the JPIC group in Rome what is being done. And I think there's a fine line, for me personally, there's a very fine line between showing off and saying this is our reality. So thank you for saying what much better than I could have said it myself.
Pat?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I think what everybody has said about the interlinkages, but I think for me, one of the key things is that to me, the JPIC is to do really a lot with the values, which then perhaps drive the actions at the UN. You know, I think that's where we can be nurtured in our values, whereas the UN might be more the mechanisms of living those values out. I mean, I know it's not as clear cut as that, but to me, the JPIC is value, you know, and I know I'm not saying that the UN is without its values, but I think, you know, sort of the JPIC would be more about nurturing the values that we sort of activate or live out of when in the mechanisms of the UN. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. I'm sorry. Maureen had a question about the human trafficking. Sorry, Maureen, I just have to drink. In relation to the human trafficking, I think, Maureen, you heard Cynthia spoke about the UN in Vienna. So at the UN in Vienna, we have the, you know, now Cynthia, you have to, I know it's called UNTOC, but I can't remember now what it stands for, but it's in relation to the crime prevention. So it's actually there at the Palermo Protocol sits under this treaty on the prevention of crime. And that's where we link up on human trafficking. Interestingly enough, there is actually a conference of parties that is going to happen in October. And we are hoping to send a delegation virtually to the conference, because at the moment, the great thing about what's happening at the UN, of course, is that it's virtual. And although it cuts off some of the people who are unable to have access to the internet, the fantastic thing that actually had happened with once it became virtual is there were quite a lot of people who would not have been able to attend the meetings, say, of the high-level political forum or maybe this General Assembly, because they wouldn't have been able to get a visa. But with everything going in virtual, all they need to do is to go to a place, an office, a UN office that have, or an NGO office that have access to an internet, and they can actually attend the conference. So that is the thing that has happened really well with this pandemic. Cynthia have just sent me the, so it's the UN office on drug and crimes is the one that sits at the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. No other questions?
Yes, Janet. This is me, Smita.
Oh, hi, Smita. I couldn't see you.
Yeah. Yes, I am just seeing now. So glad to see Pat also. It gives joy to see Pat journeying with us. And the new faces. No, it also feels it's also the dream, I think, of Mother Mary Ward, that we CJs and Loretos are together at this time of the hour from different parts of the world. Being together virtually gives me joy, and I'm sure many of us experience that joy. That is also one of the uppermost in our leadership mind, by putting us all together, CJs and Loretos together. So is our Pauline and Edina together. And so adding to, it is so joy. I also feel joyful to be part of this meeting. And Janet, we are mentioning, it is so nice to hear that where we make our presence felt regionally. When Cynthia sends me some articles, I just go through, and there are a lot of things. UN is very, very active regionally, nationally. Lot of meetings take place, lot of 80, 90 pages articles are there. So it would be really good as we have, it may as well happen that we are able to commit to that aspect of representing ourselves regionally, which would be really good. It will be much more effective if we make our regional, national presence felt. And we have access because under you, representing you, we will be representing here. And that would be very good because it would give a direct link to the and then for me in Nepal, it was because when I go there, it would be all our own influence. Our own ex-students are employed there. Most of them are our own ex-students because of their education, and UN representatives, all of them are well qualified and very, very active. Nationally, it is very active. When it comes to, they have to report at UN, they are very active here. Nationally, they do a lot of things. So it is very, very important. And I would wish that I would be also able to spend time. That will be also actually a full-time job because it continuously meetings take place here. As you are full-time, now maybe we can explore because we may have to only attend virtually. But we may try. So that would be really very good. I just want to support that point. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smita. I just wanted to speak about Mary Elizabeth and Catherine spoke about advocacy and how difficult advocacy is. When I was at the UN, Cynthia and we attended a workshop in relation to advocacy, and there was one thing that I learned that really helped me understand, because advocacy, they said, has three legs, like a three-legged chair, as you can imagine. And the person who was giving us the workshop said, the key importance really is when we advocate to the people. And so advocacy to the people is educating the people of the issues, but more importantly, educating the people of their human rights, to make their governments accountable. And then the other thing that they said about advocacy is finding out who are the influencers in your community, because most of the time it's not really the government. There are people behind the government. So business councils, religious congregations, like collectively, is quite a powerful organization. So it's really finding out who are the influencers in your community and advocating with them, finding out what are your common issues and working with them on that, collaborating with them. And he said, only then can you really go to your government, because with the backing of the people who vote for them, and the businesses and all the lobby groups that works with them, then they will change. This is what he said. There is more power behind them changing their policies, because the votes are at risk, and the money that goes to their organizations, to the politicians, are at risk. Then they will listen. So it's quite interesting to learn that that's how advocacy actually works. Nawada and then Adina.
Okay, Nawada is Ansi.
Oh, Ansi, sorry. I'm gone. My eyes is I'm sorry.
No, sorry. You are right only. You are correct. I have written the district where I belong to. I signed in for a change. That was what happened. I did not change. Sorry for that. It's me. Okay. Janet, what you said is right. I was just going to say the same. Just now what you said about the identifying the force, identifying the people with resources, infrastructure, resources in terms of information and knowledge, which are very important for lobbying and advocacy. I'm sure many of you are aware of what happened recently in India. One case, one of the esteemed lawyers, advocate of the Supreme Court, he was being, punished for code of conduct, making a tweet on, social media about the Supreme Court lawyer, Chief Justice of India. So what happened was that a lot of issues was highlighted through the social media. because he is a human rights activist, he is a down-to-earth man. We are in contact with him. We do have network with him. Today also we had a session with him and all that. So what happened to social media took up the case, and then they said human rights is more important than code of conduct, which was the law which was framed long back in our colonial period of time. That needs to be relooked at it. And finally, what has happened was that he should be punished severely, going by the law, because of the pressure put on by the civil society organizations, youth leaders, and many other people. The Supreme Court of India had no way than to punish him with just ₹1 fine, finally. That's what, just ₹1 fine for 50 paise for one tweet, and second tweet was 50 paise. And that was being celebrated, and the whole thing changed in the country, almost we can say. That is a real wake-up call given to the whole nation today for each one of us. And when I look at us also, a human rights activist, I would really be happy to see such things happening in our country. And that is what is we needed. What we need is information, knowledge, and the strength of support of the people. Sorry, I have some problem with my light here. Okay, so support of the civil society organizations. I know, as you said, Janet, and all of us know, me as an individual person or a province or a congregation may not be able to address the big, huge issues, but there are hundreds of civil society organizations working in all over the world. We need to simply join in hands with them, sharing their interest, sharing our information and knowledge, and just being with them itself. Therein we can get, then only we can really get into social advocacy or lobbying. Otherwise, alone it is really a very difficult task. So that's what I just want to say. So finally, I'm going back to the JPAC office in Rome, and it's not a bad time, Adina or Pauline. We are all with you, and we are just sharing all the information that you hand over to us, to the province. Now the season of creation and other celebrations, and people are really happy, and we are rejoining with you. And I do not think there is an overlap, but what I would suggest is that we need to have a lot of collaboration and cooperation between the two offices: UN office, UN representatives, JPIC office, and JPIC coordinators. Thank you.
Thank you, Ansi. Adina?
I have a question in relation to advocacy at the, let's say, congregational level, with regard to issues happening in the world. Like, for example, the situation in Belarusia at the moment. Belarusia, we know Belarus is one of the founding members of the United Nations, and the situation in the Philippines. And I read a little bit after Maria Elizabeth sent me a little challenge about the treaty on Escazú with regard to Amazonia. And I was just thinking, how do we, as congregation, are responding to these challenges in the world? Because it's not about the one country. It is about the violation of human rights in a specific geographical part of the world, which can be, today it's Belarus, tomorrow it can be Italy, or we see. So how can we advocate even within the church? Because for sure there are people who need our support in these places. And we have community, for example, in Brazil, we have community in the Philippines. How could we respond to these challenges in terms of advocacy?
Adina, is that a question to me or to the group? Because I think the answer is the groups.
It's a preoccupation of me. So if anybody has some ideas, it's just.
I think it is true that we need to be aware of what is happening in other places, in other provinces. The situation in because at the moment, the situation in Belarus, I don't know, Cynthia, but I haven't heard if it even has gone into the Security Council. I haven't heard anything about it. Usually in relation to anything of that, of security and peace is the Security Council fora. But it has been, there is a big, at the moment, there is a really big movement here trying to ask for the Security Council to be restructured, because at the moment it's just hamstrung. I mean, sorry about the word, but that's really is what's happening at the Security Council. But Adina, I think more importantly, we need to make our network aware of what is happening. We need to share the information about what is happening. I know, for example, when the situation in the Philippines, I'm very much aware, obviously, because I'm from that country originally. But I think our network we have a lot of connections with the young people. Can I just say that if we can work with our young people, this generation is the largest of all generation. There are currently 1.2 billion young people. And how many of these young people are we educating collectively? In our schools, in our missions, in our ministries. If we can work collectively on engaging them, I think we have a power that within ourselves that we haven't really looked at strategically look at how we could work with our young people. Before we could, I'm happy to continue the question and answer. I just want to check.
I'm sorry, I was out for Janet.
Yeah, are you back now, Cynthia?
Yes,
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Just want to, add to what Adina was saying. I know there are many congregations taking a stand on different issues and making, their statement or doing our advocacy. So as a congregation, I think the leadership maybe, they need to consider. I don't know how much authority we have as NGO office at the UN to do that. But there are, I know, for example, Good Shepherd Sisters, when they take a stand on different issues and they really make statement and then they write to government and doing a lot of,
yeah. There is one, actually, Adina, there is one thing that you were talking about, a burning issue. For me, the burning issue is the Black Lives Matter, because we haven't put out a statement in relation to the Black Lives Matter. And as Cynthia's saying, a lot of congregations have put out a statement on the Black Lives Matter.
Sorry, I didn't hear. There is a statement at the congregational level with regard to Black Lives Matter.
Where
it's on the congregation website.
That is quite interesting that it wasn't. So it's on our IBVM or the CJ?
Both. Pauline, can you say something? You are muted.
Yeah, because we weren't made aware. Pauline?
Yes, we did we did craft a statement in regard to Black Lives Matter. And there is a statement on the website of both IBVM and CJ. That was very early on when there were several people who had been killed in the US.
Yeah.
There was a statement. And I think, I'm just thinking about what Adina was asking about advocacy. And Cynthia has, I think, answered that partially by saying that she wouldn't know like what kind of level of engagement at such, like coming up with such statements. I think the Good Shepherds had one, Declarations had one, and we also saw one from, I think, Adina, if I'm not wrong, it was the OFMs. So maybe it's a question of discussion, but as you said, Janet, and clarified on advocacy, I think it also has to do with within our own network. Some of these things that we can highlight as advocacy without saying we are now advocating.
Yeah.
But I think there are things we can bring out through our social media platforms, through our website, etc. Yeah, but there is a statement in our both our websites.
Okay, that's
Just
very
to- yeah,
that's good
just
to
to-
know. We probably need to share it.
Just,
Yeah.
I put the link here from
thank you.
the website. Because you see the statement, it's from the both leadership. It's on racial injustice.
Yeah, that'd
But
be
it's
great.
part of yes.
Thank you so much.
Access the link. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. May I ask a question? Will Adina and Pauline be on this, the WhatsApp net? I don't know if we have a WhatsApp for our JPIC.
No, Adina and Pauline is actually on our UN Advisory Committee.
Yeah, well, will they be on this? Will they be on this, on the WhatsApp for UN province reps? That's my question, because Adina, I would be very happy to share with you something on the Treaty of Escazú.
Yeah.
And I would ask the group to interest themselves in it. It is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Farmers and other interests, they're burning the Amazon forest at the rate of areas as big as France.
Yeah.
It's absolutely tragic. So, you know, and I have a website at the moment which is called Women Advocating For, which I would send on. I'll send it on this on the province UN reps. I have it on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Okay.
I just need to check to check. I'm sure that it's late now to have. We did say we were going to do a training on social media, but Cynthia, did you want to make a suggestion? Are you there?
Yeah, my suggestion is, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have very poor net. So we have our UN reps meeting on 5th of October, if you remember. We had it last meeting. So one suggestion is we can have 15 minutes presentation on that day on social media, and then we can go ahead. We'll have, we will not go beyond 2 hours, I promise you. So please join us for the meeting on 5th of October. We'll send you the agenda and link.
Okay. Yeah, the social media training is very short. It's really just about talking to you about the 3 main ones: Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Instagram. Thank you. Janet, could I just want to mention one other thing, because I have to go in a moment. Going back to what you said about the schools, I just want to say before I go, what a wonderful document was brought out by the schools in India.
Yeah.
The UN book. That was I think it's absolutely stunning. It's one of the best things and I read a lot. It's one of the best things I've ever read, and I've had such great feedback from the province and from our schools, and I'm really sorry we haven't done it ourselves. That's very selfish to say that, but it was really magnificent. I think it's brilliant. Thank you.
And I think they're quite happy for everyone to use it and
great.
make all the changes because there's a bit there about India, so they're quite happy for you to use it.
But
and
even that, it's really wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
it's fantastic.
Yeah, they are sent the PowerPoint so you can make changes surely according to your country.
Well, wasn't thinking really of changes. I'm just thinking what a wonderful thing it is, and you know, it is great. Thank you.
Okay, we are nearing our 1.5 hour that we promised, and we don't want to go over. But is there any other burning questions or anything like that? before we close up, and we will let you know. Actually, we will send, if you want us to send you the presentations that we've made for today, we can send that to you as well, and the recording as well for those who have not been able to attend.
I just wanted to ask Janet, when you were answering, you said about that in the regional level, it is not exactly the government who makes the impact. No, it is not the government who does the things. No, there is always the higher power, which you address it as a business class. So working in the UN, no, I'm just curious. Working at the UN and seeing the like Security Council and its own the subtle things that happen really. So what do you feel, your own experience, what do you think at the UN, if you look at, as you said, for the country, for our national, it is a business people. So at the UN functioning, who are those who really are behind the things? Because like even last time when certain decisions are made at the UN, some countries very conveniently they just don't follow, they don't sign, even if the highest effort is made by everyone, but still they don't sign. So which means there is some few who are the highest powers that controls even the UN. So could you just share something if you are aware, if you know, if it is okay, like.
Yes, definitely there are powers behind. But the thing is, the United Nations is only as good as the government we elect. As the governments we elect, because they are the ones sitting at that table. And so the more my understand, like when I look around and I see at the moment the kind of governments we have elected democratically, I am working very hard not to lose hope. And so I feel that we need to, like, that first part of advocacy has to happen. The advocating to the citizens of the world, of each of our countries. At the moment, we're very much aware of all the misinformations that are happening with the COVID, and in other places with all these conspiracy theories. We really have to work to change the narrative, to work hard to change the narrative that lying is not acceptable. We will not accept governments that lie. We will not accept governments that that abuse their power. We will not accept governments that that abuse human rights of individuals. But we need to work with our own citizens to be able to do that. So yes, Mita, there is the interesting thing is we hear, for example, I'm from Australia. I hear a lot about we can't be working on renewable energies because our countries will not be able to afford it, that economically it's going to be impossible. And yet, when I go to the UN, I hear governments and businesses saying, this is the way forward. Renewable energy is the way forward. So there are, the difficulties, Mita, is to understand whose interests, who are the most powerful and whose interests are actually being served by our governments. We have to make sure it's our interests, not the interests of the rich and the powerful. So I hope that helps. Because really...
Can I add?
Yes, sorry, Cynthia. Yes, Cynthia.
Yeah. Yes. So the business, if you, I had mentioned about the major groups at the UN. So there are, 9 major groups: women, children and youth, indigenous people. These are major groups recognized by the UN. So business and industry. So when we say multi-stakeholders, so these business people are there. So they have greater influence. And of course, it's all about money and power. So business people trying to, so you may have heard about private-public partnership, where private sectors like business people trying to get into the government, partnership with government and work, and civil society like NGOs, our space is shrinking. So that there is that, power crisis or conflict, I must say. So there is a lot of influence from the business major groups. Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, Mary Elizabeth, yes?
Yeah, I was going to say that perhaps here the municipalities are very important. In Peru, there is national government, there's regional government, but you know, we have very good laws, but it all depends on what happens in the local area, and that's where the corruption is very, very strong. So yes, we have been lobbying there in the sense that doing things in public. One of the things that you can do here in Peru actually is have, as you will remember, Janet, to have a, what would you call it, a pasacalle, which is a manifest,
a rally, a protest rally.
A rally, exactly, in the street, and sometimes ending up at the municipality that can be very helpful, because a lot of corruption happens at the local level.
Yes. Yeah.
For all the good laws that we have, they often don't filter. And also the police, for example, in the case of violence against women, there are very good laws at the moment, but when a woman goes to the police station, very often she's treated so badly that very few of them ever want to go there. Mm-hmm. And one of the better projects that exists in Waikan, it was founded by the Colombian sisters, is where there are women to accompany the victim at every stage of the process, so that she can actually avail of all that is supposed to be her right according to the laws.
Yeah. And in relation to the businesses, I just want to ask you if you are game enough to ask about your province's investment, because shareholders have a lot of power, I can tell you. I've seen it happen with a mining company here. The shareholders were the one that made them change something that have happened. And I think we're over time. Thank you so much for joining Cynthia and I. And we will send you the information. Cynthia, you have last words.
Yeah. So once again, thanks to all of you for joining us from different time zone. We really appreciate, and I'm sure you got a clear picture of our work and how we need to collaborate and need to work together. And we really look forward, and thanks for all your collaboration that we are having already, and we look forward for the same, and we will see you on 5th of October. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Thank you, Cynthia, Janet, and everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.